Rack and roll. Shadows of Centris. Good grief. Has anyone checked if the Admiral can turn water into wine? At this rate, I'd believe it. Amadi notes as he looks down at the formerly hostile women, all talking excitedly among themselves. Since none of them had gotten the bright idea to jump up and try something, less heavily armored soldiers were now allowed on the walkways and looking down. Many of the wanderers were there and looking down at the girls. "So you guys were hit by Sheepwoman?" Terrence E. Phelps, another wanderer, asks. "Yep, surprisingly dangerous too. They were organized and clearly have been training," Amadi says, pointing down to the flock of sheep women. Apparently, the wool gatherers, as they're called, are a moderately powerful volunteer militia group. They keep their home spires almost entirely crime-free. They can't catch everything, of course, but they've done good work. "Not bad. I got hit by a neighborhood watch of Batwomen," Terrence says, pointing to where a bunch of Sonier had been allowed to hang off some of the walkways to both free up room below and allow them to rest more comfortably. A move that had gone over well to keep things calm and friendly. "How did they fight?" Koa asks. "A huge swarm of confusing flappiness above us as they took random pot shots. Well, not so random. They like to shoot from behind, so once we figured that out, we managed to dodge pretty easily. Bayo got badly messed up, but we got him home in time. A lot of the bitches won't be going home, though." "How many did you kill?" Koa presses. Not sure if he should, but if it helps the man vent, then it will help. Part of me says not enough, but then I remember they were the bitches' rubes and Bayo's gonna live. But damn it, half just wasn't enough. Terrence snarls before looking away. "Not to be an asshole," Reggie begins, "but you and Bayo are part of an army. It's your job to go into harm's way. It will happen." "Doesn't mean I have to like it," Terrence snarls. "No, but that doesn't mean you get to be a whiny bitch either," Reggie retorts, and Terrence whirls on him. See? You're just angry and lashing out." "Dude," Amadi protests as Koa outright blocks Terrence from jumping on Reggie and shoots the smaller man a dirty look. "See? You're just looking to lash out. Your friend's hurt. You've killed a bunch of them. If that's not enough already, then you're just being an idiot," Reggie says, and Koa lets Terrence go, who takes a swing at Reggie, and the rejuvenated engineer backs up a bit to dodge. Terrence then extends the blow and manages to get Reggie hard in the cheek. "All right, you made your point," Koa says, grabbing Terrence by the shoulder as Reggie staggers back a bit. "Dick," Terrence mutters before stomping off. "Was there a point to that?" Amadi asks, and Reggie nods to the hanging Sonier. "There are prisoners. If one of the guards outright hates them and starts spreading that, I don't want to be part of a war crime," Reggie says. "So you act like an asshole in order to make him hate you instead? By the time he cools off to think about things or comes back for me, the prisoners will be released and he won't be able to take it out on them," Reggie says. "I think you're reading too much into things. I hope you're going to apologize to him later," Koa says, and Reggie shrugs. "Yeah, I will have to apologize, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I've read about what happens when some people have overwhelming power over others, and having that kind of nightmare open and public in the galaxy is the last thing humanity needs now. That's not happening, but it's good to know that you're not just being randomly dickish," Amadi remarks as he continues to broadcast the conversation to Terrence's ear. "You had me worried there." "Still a dickhead," Terrence calls out from where he's gone. Reggie looks confused for a moment before he gives Amadi a bit of a look. The man just chuckles before nodding to the projector screen. There's only a few seconds left on the countdown. Everything returns to its previous configuration, and Raspberry is outright playing with a paddle ball as she waits. Whether or not she was playing with it the whole time or just started now for the sake of a joke is up for debate as she tosses it to the side and takes an attentive pose. She's having way too much fun with this. "And our break is up," Representative Many Minds states calmly. "I call this court back into session. We would like to challenge the so-called evidence of my client's alleged conspiracy to have multiple armed parties, or indeed, any armed parties attack the Undaunted either on an individual citizen level or as a larger group. Madam Oliphas's lawyer begins the moment things are declared in session. Certainly, we have several examples of it. Would you care to examine them starting from the most recent or in some other order? Admiral Cistern asks with a confident smile. Most to least recent. Representative Many Mind states. Certainly our most recent is one of the largest pieces of information. A recording of Madam Oliphas's rants and threats while she was held in custody. This information was not coerced, and we have two distinct recordings that we will match along the audio. As he explains, two panels light up. One shows Madam Oliphas in a small cell glaring out of it, and the other is showing the hallway outside to reveal that Madam Stepanov is sitting in a rocking chair across the hall from her with one book sitting on the floor and another in her hands. "Play it," Khan Bloodfeast says with a thumbs up and a vicious smile. "Do you know who I am? I'm worth more than your entire speck of dust world. You think it was bad that some stupid gangs jumped on your idiots? I'll have the fucking stars drop on you. There won't be a single system where you pathetic humans can go where you'll be safe. You think that because you're a bunch of organized thugs that you're above consequences. You've crossed my path and I pay attention, damn it." The recording rants and Madam Oliphas's lawyer buries her face in her hands. "Pardon? Did you say something, young lady?" Madam Stepanov asks, as she puts some device in her ear and turns to her. "I'm afraid I'm going deaf in my left ear. You'll have to speak up if you want my attention." The recording is paused at that point, even as Representative Bluewing mutes herself so she can laugh without interrupting things. That proves nothing. She was alluding to the well-known attacks on the Undaunted, which, while tragic and very unfortunate, has not been proven in any capacity to be tied to my client. The lawyer states plainly. Furthermore, there is the issue of coercion that has been brought up by my client. She claims that she has been tormented, and her clear dislike of an admitted professional interrogator could be seen as evidence that any form of confession you care to bring up were in fact coerced and therefore inadmissible in court. The entirety of the recording can be shown. There's just a severe period of little to nothing of interest for several hours due to her being unconscious at the time, Admiral Cistern offers. "Is there an indicator of time on them?" "Yes, however we have not prepared the video with an appropriate skip in it." "What is the file name of this security recording? Is it within the information package you sent us?" "I haven't sent it out as we were still in the process of recording when we contacted you and sent the initial files. I am, however, transferring the files to you now," Admiral Cistern says, and then Representative Many Minds moves into a bit of a flurry of activity with several communicators working in tandem. Her screen is then replaced with the security footage of the hallway to show Madam Stepanov carrying in Madam Oliphas one-handed and placing her in the cell before going on to her communicator to ask for something. Shortly afterwards, the rocking chair and two books are brought to her. Things start fast-forwarding. A Madam Stepanova slowly reads the book and gently rocks back and forth as she waits for Madam Oliphas to wake up. The fast-forwarding continues for a while until Madam Stepanova glances over and then pauses. The sound of Oliphas outright snoring brings a large amount of laughter around the cargo bay, and then the fast-forwarding continues. The forwarding continues and then finally stops when Madam Oliphas wakes up. "Wait, what? What's going on? Who are you? Do you know who I am? I'm worth more than your entire speck of dust world." The rant continues as it was before as Madam Oliphas's lawyer looks physically pained. Then it was paused once more. "My client has still claimed to be coerced, intimidated, and tortured." "Let us continue watching then," Khan Bloodfeast says, and the video continues. "Deaf? You're going deaf? I thought you were just some stupid aged fetishist. You pathetic old hag. Madame Oliphas is then seemingly struck dumb as Madame Stepanova's only response is to pluck out her hearing aid and turn back to her book. "You stupid, worthless hag. I'll have your entire family line thrown out of their homes and cast into the dirt." "I'm an orphan and never married," Madame Stepanova remarks as she turns a page. "You can hear me." "You're screeching so loudly it's echoing," Madame Stepanova remarks as she turns the page. "No kidneys, really?" "What are you reading?" Madame Oliphas screams at her. "A medical text on Trets." Madame Stepanova answers, holding up the book. "It's always good to know what someone's dealing with. Although your skin not having pores would make it rather unusual to administer treatment to in comparison to a human's." "And the other book?" "Just a cookbook, dearie. The loin and kidney pie is exceptional. A pity such a thing is so rarely enjoyed." When she smiles, there's a nearly metallic gleam to her dentures. "You're going to eat me?" "I couldn't possibly. You don't have the parts I like," Madame Stepanova replies. "See? See?" The more current Madame Oliphas calls out. "She threatened to eat me." "She outright said that she wouldn't and even gave a reason beyond mere morals," Admiral Cistern remarks. "She never so much as made a threatening gesture towards you. She's answered your questions politely and promptly, smiled in a friendly manner, and in response you've screeched an enormous amount of threats and implications after her." "I agree," Representative Many Minds states. "I've been browsing the entirety of the file among my many bodies and have come to the conclusion that Madame Oliphas has effectively confessed no less than a dozen different times. Her numerous threats, abuse, and ranting shows her to be remorseless in her intent to harm others." "Yeah, girl's guilty as hell," Raspberry states out loud as she relaxes. "I say she should be fed to the beasts and her stuff should go to the people she's been screwing over. The fact that she continues to threaten people while in prison shows that she's avoided all sorts of problems before and never actually dealt with the consequences of her actions. You see this at times when it comes to girls that always won their fights. If they lose, they go so crazy they may try to outright murder one of their own sisters in battle. Those girls are a danger to themselves, a danger to their sisters, and a danger to society at large. In the end, girl, victory has defeated you. I agree with Representative Bluewing, death to prevent further damage, and her wealth distributed among her victims to compensate the harm caused. You don't have the authority to do this to me. You don't have the right. I will sue you all into—" Madame Oliphas's rant is cut off when she's muted. "For a case with the death penalty on the line, I will only accept a judgment if it's unanimous. I apologize for putting this burden on you, Representative Many Minds, but do we have a verdict?" Admiral Cistern asks, and Representative Many Minds examines numerous things with her many bodies. Only one is not busy, and she's holding up a finger to buy herself some time. Then they all stop and come together, looking more like a collected family. "I have reached my conclusion. The evidence is immense. The numerous confessions derived from Madame Oliphas's ranting is merely the top of the spire. There are records of calls sent from a burner communicator, the registration of a temporary credit card paid by Madame Oliphas to purchase the communicator in question. There is the extremely extensive history of semi-legal wrangling and abuse of power, to say nothing of shady business practices, and several occasions where charity money went missing in computer glitches, nothing proven so far, until today." Representative Many Minds takes a moment to collect herself. "It brings me no joy or pleasure to hand out a sentence such as this. In full retention of her faculties and full control of her actions, Madame Amala Oliphas has proven herself time and again a danger to those around her, a danger to the stability of society, an actively hostile individual to nearly everyone who crosses her path. She has shown no remorse or inclination to cease this pattern of behavior, even when confronted with entities with the legal authority to strike back as the undaunted have done. The weight of evidence is overwhelming. and the repeated outbursts during this trial only further prove the point. Madam Amala Olifas, you are guilty. I assent and agree with the judgment of my peers. Your life will be ended to prevent further harm to others, and your legal possessions will be used to reimburse and compensate the victims of your childish and cruel antics. Admiral Cistern, as the most recent aggrieved party and as a governmental figure in good standing, I charge you with the execution of this sentence. Of course, Madam Olifas, you will be placed in stasis until such time as you will be transported through cruel space to the human homeworld of Earth. This trip will be fatal, and upon the arrival of your cadaver, it will be donated to scientific research and development. Such will be the sum totality that the undaunted will be personally compensated by you. The remainder of your wealth and assets will be appropriately distributed among your victims according to the laws relevant to their current addresses. The projector is then deactivated and there's a silence. And that's that. Who's hungry? Koa asks the crowd, and there's a silence as many of them look up towards him. Is something wrong? Isn't there more? There is, but it's mostly just legal talk and specifics. If you want those details, it's readily available, but me? I'm hungry.